Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning, khush aamdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, pakhair, ragle. Welcome to Well This Morning, which is a Hashmi. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful morning outside here in the Twin Cities, especially in Islamabad. As always, it happens to be one of the prettiest cities in the world, not only in the country. So all of you watching the show right now, I wish and hope that you do achieve and succeed in everything that you have planned for today. And that is going to happen if you do start your day with a very healthy breakfast, because I've done the same, and hope for you to do the same as well, because it's good for your health, of course. And also for the energy of your mind and for the working of your mind too. I mean, my mind automatically just opens immediately after I have my coffee. And if you have paratha with coffee, it's super perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to share with you the weather updates from around the country today, because they are, let's say, not very, we don't need to know them. It's not going to be raining or snowing in different parts of the country very regularly, because we're almost entering summer now. I've been mentioning this before as well. So what are we talking about today? Well, this is a small build-up. It's going to take a few minutes, but I do want you guys to listen to it. Lately, I've been watching a show on Netflix. It's called The Good Place. This is not an ad. I'm just, sharing my story with you. So the gist of the story is that there are a few people who die, and because of the points of their action, they've been getting negative points all their lives because they're bad people. They go to the bad place. And just one day, they get another chance to start their lives over, to become a good person and earn better points so that they can enter the good place. And of course, I mean, for a few months, they are the best people on the planet. They're earning so many points. But eventually, they forget about how they're accountable of whatever they're doing, or how they will be answerable for whatever they're doing. And they become bad people again. I feel like that is classic human nature. I mean, we automatically forget as soon as we start indulging in whatever is happening in our lives. We just forget that we are answerable for the deeds that we do to the people around us as well. I mean, human rights before everything, right? So point of discussing this was that a few days ago, I came across a video where a religious teacher was brutally just, smashing and beating up this small kid. He must be 6 to 7 years old. And I could not complete that video. I had hardly watched probably 10 seconds of it. And I was, so bothered about it. I was in anxiety for a very long time, ever since I've watched it. And then every other day we come across, posts about how people take their domestic workers or laborers with them to restaurants, to fancy outings, and they don't even feed them. They don't even make them sit with them. I mean, these are the things that we are going to be discussing today. First of all, how empathy is just gone. I mean, it's not there anymore, and especially in terms of children. Are we being the people who are, equally providing rights to the children out there, especially in Pakistan, where there are, millions of out-of-street children? They deserve shelter, they deserve survival, everything that they need to survive on. Their health, of course, needs to be taken care of, education, and so many things. And for this purpose, of course, we have been joined by some very apt guests who have spent most of their time working for the, provision of rights of children. So I think I need to be introducing them without further ado. On my right-hand side, we've been joined by someone who is so graceful and so sweet to talk to, ladies and gentlemen, first of all. And then, of course, we will be discussing whatever they've done as a responsible citizen of the country, and then again as a responsible global citizen as well. So on the right-hand side, we've been joined by Miss Maliha Hussain, a human rights activist, and she also happens to be the executive director of Meher Foundation. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Meher Gar Foundation, rather. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Next to Miss Maliha, we have Miss Manize Bano, who happens to be the chief executive of Sahil Organization. She's also a social activist. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you.
And then next to Miss Manize, we have someone who's been on the show before as well, and I absolutely love her energy. She is Amna Omer, an educationist, also a child rights activist, and she is the owner, or let's say, she's working at the Hassan Foundation. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shiza, for having me here.
Our pleasure, of course. And first of all, thank you so much for you amazing ladies being here early in the morning. And since you are a social activist and child rights activist, I'm pretty sure this is not hard for you to be a morning person, right? I mean, you all seem so calm. So to begin with, ma'am, I mean, I know what you guys have done. I want everyone out there to know what you have done, being a responsible citizen of the country, first of all. And what was it that inspired you to start doing this? I mean, to forget about yourself, to be so selfless, and start investing your energies, your time, your capital in something so meaningful. Let's start with you, ma'am.
I think, first of all, a lot of us women are mothers.
Yeah.
And that is where it all begins.
Right.
It's important that we treat our children as complete human beings.
Absolutely.
Talk to them and try and make them into the best human beings possible, because my mother always says that, you know, if every mother or if all parents raise their children properly, we will get rid of all of our social problems just in one generation. So we have a huge responsibility, and it starts at home. And as you grow up and as you start working outside, you realize that there are children around you everywhere.
Absolutely.
In the family, your friends' children, even during your work, you come across children, and it is so important to treat them right, and to talk to them, and to, you know, there's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And as I am growing older, I realize it's so important. We all need to chip in, and we all need to take responsibility of any and all children that come into our lives.
That's absolutely true. So ma'am, tell us about Mehergar Foundation and what you are doing over there.
Mehergar is an organization that was started to actually work with youth leaders from across Pakistan. And it was started by Dr. Fawzia Saeed, who's always worked for women's rights. And we have been very actively working on the implementation of anti-sexual harassment laws. Because it's still a very taboo topic in Pakistan. And we have taken on the responsibility of ensuring that this law gets effectively implemented throughout Pakistan.
That needs to be done, most definitely.
So as we are working on implementing the law, we have including child sexual abuse as a part of it. You know, I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of parents, young professionals.
You train them, right?
We conduct a lot of trainings. That is one of Mehergar's strengths.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to, we will definitely come back to that in detail. But Ms. Manize, when did you start doing this? Okay, even if not, you don't want to share that. What drove you to start doing this? And then, of course, what you're doing lately.
Well, actually, you know, my mother was a very well-known social worker. And I guess it must be in the blood, because then we took that, I took it up also, and my children also, my girls also have taken it up.
You must be so proud.
My three, I am very proud of them. And it was one of my girls actually who began SAHIL, because it was her absolute mission that child sexual abuse must be spoken about.
Absolutely.
And in fact, as her first chairman, I said to her, look, let's say child abuse, it includes everything. And she said, no, this will disappear. So that is how SAHIL came into being.
Wow, absolutely love it. What about you, Amma?
Well, I started it with few kids. I really wanted to teach them. This was an idea which didn't choose me. I didn't choose this career actually.
It just came to you.
Yeah, it just came into me. I wanted to do something for the kids, especially for the kids. And it was like back in 2 years when I thought of this idea, and I really wanted to implement it. And somehow when starting with the education of the child rights, like Ma'am Maliha said, it take a village to raise a child. So I started with the education. Maybe the education is the first thing that can change or transform a person's life, because it is the very basic right that every child must have.
Definitely.
So we can all talk about child rights, but all it starts with education.
Right. Now, Amna, you know, the child rights, child abuse, child violence, everything still comes under the Ministry of, you know, Human Affairs and the Ministry of Human Rights. Of course, there have been talks, there have been bills passed for a commission to form on child rights exclusively. When is that going to happen, and is it the need of the hour?
It is definitely the need of the hour. In 2018, almost 3,500 cases were reported for the child abuse. And for that, and to stop that, the Juvenile Act system we were just talking about before the show started, it needs to be implemented so far so that the rate of the child abuse and child marriages and all that other ailment the child has to face, a small child has to face. Most of the, we have in Pakistan, we have a stream of traditions.
Right.
In most of the traditions, they need to get married the child in a very tiny fragile age. So we need to stop it as well, alongside with the Ministry of Human Rights and all other things. It is our own, you know, it's our own duty, you know, to start giving awareness about these child rights to the society, for the friends we are sitting in, because that's how the change is going to start.
Absolutely.
We should not really depend everything on the government to do it. Maybe we can start our own initiative, our own responsibility, like SAHIL Foundation, like Mehergar Foundation, and like Hassan Foundation. We are the changers of the society.
Definitely.
Let's do it at our own.
Definitely. And you know, Ms. Maliha, right in the beginning, you said that one of the biggest responsibility lies on the parents, of course, because they are shaping the personality of a person who's going to be the future of this world. So, you know, a lot of unfortunate children, I happen to know a lot of them who are sort of exposed to, you know, domestic abuse or domestic violence, or then again, there are different types of violence and abuse. It's not always physical, it's verbal as well, there's emotion as well. And that sits in the personality or the subconscious of the child for so long, you're just ruining a life. So for the parents out there, I'm going to ask this to all of you because I need, of course, different perspectives. What do they need to be careful about? I mean, they don't, when they're fighting or when let's they say they're hitting each other, unfortunately, they're not thinking there are people picking that up.
Yes. I think parents need to be very conscious. I think even before becoming parents, are they ready to become parents or not? Do they have the time in their lives to give to the child? Because when you're bringing a person into this world, you have to make sure that you have the time to raise it properly.
Right, absolutely.
So being there for your children is very important,
Of course.
and treating them as complete human beings.
Right.
Because a lot of us don't realize that children are complete human beings, just like us. A lot of us feel that, you know, they're children, they don't know anything. What do they
Right.
know? And we don't talk to them, we don't treat them as responsible members of the family.
Or an independent entity on
As
itself,
an
right?
independent entity. So it's very important to talk to them about everything, of course, according to their age, but involve them in things and teach them how to communicate to one another, not,
Right.
you know, pulling each other's hair or not taking each other's
Right,
things
right.
without asking them. So that is where it all begins, because whatever you teach them, that is the sort of citizen they will become once they leave the house.
Right.
How will they behave in their school, and how will they behave with other people around them when they enter their practical lives?
That's so true. And you know, just a lot of my friends recently have been getting married, mashallah, and some of them have become young mothers as well. And this was, I think, just yesterday that we were discussing such a huge responsibility it is to, first of all, decide that you're, you know, ready to have a kid, of course. It's not only the expenses that you have to afford, there's so many other things. And then one of them said that you are the ghost of your child's future. I mean, of course, they are going to carry it with them in the future as well. So what do you feel about this, ma'am, Manize?
You know, we work for protection of children against violence, and we are now go into villages and do our trainings there and our awareness, and we also offer free legal aid and counseling. But the two things that we do give in our trainings, one is the gender-based violence, because we say that affects the children so badly.
Most
They
definitely.
live with fear and they live with guilt. So that's one whole thing, and it's happening all the time. So this is a very important thing for people to understand. The second we do is a parenting skill intervention also. And in that, what we are trying to tell them is that, number one, you must give a lot of love and affection to your children.
Right.
And communicate with them, as Mali is saying. We communicate with them, talk to them. Let us not have yes and no as answers from parents. No or yes.
Right.
And nothing in between. If you are saying a no, explain your no. Be consistent with what you say.
Right.
Don't one day say it's okay to do this and the next day say you cannot do this. Those inconsistencies create so much confusion in children's lives.
That's true.
So these are the kind of things that we tell them.
Of course, that was brilliant to listen to. But you know, I feel like just a while ago, Amna, you mentioned that June I liked as well, but I think it's now time to talk about the right age for marriage for girls. I mean, it's been 18 for a few years now, but the Senate bill was passed in 2017 where they wanted it to be 23 instead of 18 for girls. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't been implemented yet. But I feel like this is one of the very basic rights for every other girl. I mean, guys, of course, but girls too. I mean, if you're not ready or independent on your own, how are you ready or independent to start, let's say, a family and then be responsible for everything? What do you think about this?
I agree. The right to get married for a girl obviously should be 18 or whenever she's ready.
Whenever she's ready,
It should not be imposed that it should be 18 or it should be 19. Our parents need to understand this. It's not about the whole girl's life, it's about the whole society we are going to form in. A mother is somebody who is going to raise generations. So if a girl is not ready to get married and not ready to start a life with her children and everything, then what about the child rights? You have obviously violated her own rights, then how can you expect her to give the proper child rights to her children? So it should not be, for me, it should not be 18, 19 or any age. It should be the girl's right, it should be the girl's basic right to decide when she is ready to start on with the life, when she is ready to have children, and when she is ready to transform into a society as a human being, when she is ready to take her responsibilities on. It's not me and you to decide that.
Definitely.
We all need to understand that we should give this right to the girls to understand and get ready to get married. So to start a family, right? That's how we can talk about the child rights. First, we need to give a girl her rights, and then expect her to give her children her rights. So this is the whole philanthropy of this.
Right,
And if I
absolutely.
may add
And Ms.
to
Maliha,
that.
you know, if we look at it that way, I mean, if you forcefully push your children into marriages that they're not willing to come in, then they are definitely raising bad children. Because first of all, they're not fully invested in what comes up next, right?
Right, and just to add to what Amna was saying, that age is important. They have to be ready to start a life. But there's another aspect also. If any of our children don't want to get married, even that should be all right for the parents.
True.
We push
Well, I
our
hope and
children
wish
to
so.
get married. Yes.
That's true.
Because if there are other things that are more important to them in their life, why shouldn't they be able to pursue those?
Right, right.
So looking at the population of Pakistan, we're always talking about controlling our population. This is one way. If our children don't want to get married,
Don't push them.
yes.
Right,
Whether
that's
it's
true.
daughters or sons doesn't really matter.
I know that's true as well. I mean, you should be the decision maker of your life, of course. You need suggestions and, of course, advancements from the people who are experienced and around you, of course, because they know better. But then again, towards the end of the day, you are the person who should be making all the decisions in your life, because you know if you're ready or not. You know where you are, on what stage you are as a person. On this note, we're headed out to a short break. When we come back, we have, sort of divided this show into different vistas of child protection that we are going to be discussing. So stay tuned. This is going to be very informative. Good morning.
Book is life. Book is hope. And book is light for the future.
Welcome back to Well This Morning, which is our Hashmi, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are in conversation about something so important and something so close to my heart as well. And right now we're moving on to, something that we definitely do need to discuss, because every other day we come across videos on social media of children being kidnapped and then never, being able to found. And then we have CCTV footages of people, men, some, barbaric people who are just pulling them away from their parents or just picking them from the markets or outside their schools and whatnot. So this is a huge market, ma'am, child trafficking. It is all across the world, not only in Pakistan. There have been some journalistic shows on where they have sort of revealed the places, what happens in, this was in Sindh, in Hyderabad as well. But then again, nothing happens, because even the people who are responsible, who are the right people to approach for, any legal settlement, they don't want to be a part of this, because this is such a dirty industry, let's say. What do you feel about this? First of all, needs to be done. And then what about all the unfortunate kids that go disappear and never come back? What about their parents? They have to live with the fact every day.
Yes. So having as many children as you can actually take care of. So I think the first responsibility again is on the parents.
Okay.
And then people around them, their neighbors, their relatives, their friends, making sure that we have an eye on our children. And it's not only men who kidnap, women do that too.
Oh, I know they're involved as well, yes.
So being very careful, even in our educational institutions, making sure that we teach our children, like, in a lot of other countries around the world, they always talk to the children about not talking to strangers, not taking anything from them and eating. These are ways we teach our children so that they can protect themselves.
Right.
But even if it happens after all the precautions, then our law enforcement agencies, I think, need to play a very important role,
Right.
which at times lacks. The sooner they can find those children and bring them back to their families, I think that is very
But
important.
that really ever happens. There are some very, very
I
lucky,
know.
some very few cases
Very few,
in which the
yes.
children have returned. What do you feel about this, Ms. Manize?
You use the right word, industry. It's actually a huge,
It is. They feed on it.
money-making industry, and it's wherever there's poverty, or as Maliha is saying, where there are so many children that you don't know where they are, this risk is very, very high.
Right.
And it's very difficult because you will have to break a whole mafia. So mafias are not easy to break.
Right.
No matter how much an agency may try. I know FIA does a lot of hounding of these traffickers, but because it's such a huge mafia and it's so slippery that it's very difficult to get it.
Right.
But the attempt has to be there all the time. But I think the good point is that we start with telling parents, look, beware, and make sure that your children are not at risk.
Right, right.
That's
so,
all.
Amna, still talking about child trafficking, Ms. Maliha said that you have to be careful about the strangers, and we start telling our children about how not to engage with strangers. But there are people like, your mates sometimes who are sort of involved in these opportunities or, activities, sorry.
Right.
And then sometimes you have some shady neighbors who become your neighbors out of nowhere, and then they are the ones who are responsible for such things, like it happened in the Zainab murder case as well.
Yes.
So how do we need to be vigilant about the people around us? We never know the intentions, right?
I agree, Shazam, that again, like Ma'am Maliha said, that the parents need to be really, really vigilant about what their child are doing, where they are going. The moment the era we are living in, the child abuse has raised so rapidly. Maybe it's because of the so many people knowing about it. It was not really vigilant to all of the people, all of the parents. Maybe even I'm mother to a girl, small girl. I didn't know about a child abuse, but right now media has given so much awareness of all about it that I am really, really vigilant about where is my daughter going, where is she playing, and what is she doing all the day. Maybe I'm sending her to a club where she's going to play some piano lessons and guitar lessons.
Right.
I really try to keep my eye on her activities and see who are her friends,
Right.
because this is really important. And then again, as a society, we need to change ourselves. We need to bring the real, awareness about this whole child trafficking issue, the child abuse issues, the child marriages issues, the corporal punishments even,
Right.
that you were talking about, a mullah beating the kid.
Yeah.
These punishment, these are not only the physical punishment, but again the emotional punishments as well.
Right.
So this is all interlinked with all child trafficking, abuse and everything. We all need to take a stand about it.
Most definitely. And you know, I was reading up about how, about the children that are beaten by especially their teachers or their guardians. For a very long time, they believe they deserved it. I mean, they're guilty about it because they deserved it. And then they develop the same pattern and repeat it to the other children in the future. But Amna, you brought up media in this. Unfortunately, a whole generation of youngsters, of children are growing up in Pakistan who are insensitive to the issues of suicide, who do not care about violent stuff or graphic stuff being portrayed on TV. That is, of course, because they are exposed to such violent content and without any filters, without any gatekeeping. Ma'am, what effect is that going to have on the children's mind and then personalities when they grow up? Because I feel like if they're so insensitive now, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't matter in the future as well.
Yep, media has a huge responsibility of what they show on television. When Talibanization was more prevalent in Pakistan, they would show these things on television all the time, in news and in other programs also.
Right.
And we realized how much of it we were being exposed to when our children started saying, they'd be walking on the street and they'd see somebody with a beard coming towards them. And I know my niece, one day she asked her father, she said, "Baba, is he going to blow himself up?"
Oh, imagine that.
I mean,
Such an
the
innocent
fear,
question, though.
she was very young, and that made us think and realize how our children are exposed to this, because it's on television all the time.
Right.
So controlling what our children are exposed to is, again, I would say, the responsibility of the parents, but media has an equally important role to play. What do you show? Because when you are showing something as gruesome as this all the time, people become insensitive to it.
Right, that's true.
They don't take it seriously. So how do you talk about it? How do you address these issues? How do you inform people about it is very important. And how much of it?
How much of it that as well. I mean, yes, we do talk about all the wrong things that our children are exposed to because of media. But then again, we cannot forget that media is now the fifth pillar of the state. It is responsible for so many things. Just a few months back, we came across a TVC. This was a noodles brand from Pakistan, of course, and they were the first ones in my entire, history of existing on this planet who actually spoke about it. They were really,
They were the first to do it as an ad,
openly on TV,
as an
right?
advertisement. They are the first to have done
Right, and they spoke about, good touch and bad touch in a very, understandable language for children to understand that what is actually harassment or what might lead to something wrong. That is one of the good roles that media played. What are some of the other things that we can talk about?
Well, we have developed a lot of messages, very simple 30-second and 1-minute messages for children, which can also be shown on, and we have done a lot on cable networks. We have shown it all over the country.
Right.
So we have done a lot of that. But I think what's more important is, again, if we talk about the responsibility of parents, as you say, you cannot stop media. Media is going to be there and everything is going to be shown. But I think when parents talk to children and there's love and affection in the house, they understand and pick up that rather than the violence.
Right.
But if there's violence in the house, then that is going to just reinforce it.
True.
So that is what will make the difference. Media is going to show everything. You can't stop media.
Right, absolutely.
But this is what you can do to make the difference, and talk to your own children and tell them that how unfortunate something violent like that is happening, or how we must make sure that we don't add to that violence. I think that's what will make the difference.
Right. Now, Ma'am Maniza very rightly said that parents shy away from this sort of conversation. Now, you happen to be a parent of, a very young, beautiful girl as well. Of course, you are going to have similar conversation with them in the future because you want them to be informed by you rather than someone else from outside. There's a communication gap. How can parents who are not comfortable with this conversation fill that?
I think it is the need of the hour.
Definitely.
We need to fill this gap, because we cannot just skip away this very, very important issue that is happening around. we need to educate our kids about it. And moreover, our schools where we send our kids, I think it is also a responsibility of the schools to educate them about it, because sometimes a kid is more comfortable in learning with her teacher who is always around her, and they have a very positive impact on the child upbringing. They think that our teacher is speaking very right. Sometimes they might take me non-serious about it, because I am her mother, I am her friend, I am her guidance and everything. But a teacher, she is going to implicate it on her mind. So
Right.
maybe it's a school's right as well,
Yes,
and that is going to fill the gap, because sometimes parents are shy. Even now, even maybe I'm talking about myself, I would be shy to my daughter, very young daughter, telling her about all these things.
But they need to learn as well.
Yeah, but they need to learn this.
But
And
may I add
Yes,
to
please,
this?
ma'am,
You
please
know, when we began Sahil, one of the first things we did was a little survey with mothers.
Right.
That, this is an issue, sexual abuse is an issue. We went straight for the topic. And do you know about it? And they said yes. And we said, do you think your children should be protected? And they said yes. Then we said, and who should tell them? And they said teachers, because they also felt that they couldn't. But I would like to say here that if you look at our animations and you show it to your child, you can, and they're from simple to a little more
Yes.
complicated,
Okay.
which may need more for older children explanation. But if you start with that, you can have a wonderful conversation with children about self-protection.
Right, most
So
definitely.
that's
I agree.
Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a small package on child protection. We will be watching that, and when we come back, we're going to discuss something even more important and which is very less talked about in our society, especially. Let's watch this.
Children live with, but is often kept a secret. You're old enough now to talk openly about the kinds of touches that are unsafe and to make smart choices for your own safety. No one should ever touch you on a private part of your body or ask you to touch their private body parts. These are unsafe touches, and they are abuse. Understanding unsafe touches isn't easy. The truth is that abusers are most often friends or relatives, and abuse from trusted adults is very hard to talk about.
But we've got the power to stop it. I'm Darius, and this is Maya. Kids who've been abused might be scared or too embarrassed to talk about it, but we can't keep it a secret.
It's never your fault if someone touches you inappropriately. If you think you've been abused, you need to tell an adult, like a teacher.
That's absolutely true. If you do feel like you have been abused, or if you feel uncomfortable in any situation, because children, they're not really sure if they've been abused or, violated. But if you do feel uncomfortable in any situation, do seek out to an adult or write to a close friend that you think might help. Report to helplines. There are so many out there. Or if you're watching this show, even write to me. I would really love to listen to you or even help you out. But now let's talk about this, particular group of children that we need to definitely discuss. So when we are talking about child protection rights, there's a group of children whose mothers are probably jailed because they're serving a sentence, or their mothers are prostitutes, but of course they have to stay with them. So imagine children living a life as if they are serving a sentence, or being, grown up in an environment which is as tacky as you would imagine. What happens to them? What rights, do they deserve? And then should the government sort of intervene to save them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it is the responsibility of the government, and if you look at developed countries, they all have systems in place. This is something I know some laws have been passed in Pakistan,
Yes.
where they've started talking about it, but when are we going to implement those laws? What is the government going to do, and what are we all going to do about it? Working with the government. But having services where if a woman is sent to jail and if she has children, there should be a place, a safe place where that child can be either, orphanages, but where the system is such that shelter homes, yes,
where the mother
where there's
can also
education and where those children are given love and they are treated like a family. There's so many mechanisms available that have been tested out and tried and that work. So having small groups of children with one adult or two adults where they live like a family in that shelter home. And taking care of their education and their intellectual development and social development and giving them security. So the government definitely needs to play a very important
Most
role.
definitely,
Yes.
right. And you know, if I were to think about it, if I am ever in the future exposed to any child whose mom is probably jailed or is a prostitute, and I definitely know that child deserves to have a normal childhood like any other person does, I would love to foster them or probably adopt them as well.
Absolutely.
But foster homes, this idea, this concept is not very common in Pakistan, ma'am. And you know, not a lot of families have even registered to be the foster parents or to be, you know, the adopting parents.
No,
Shouldn't
it's not
that be a common
system
thing?
here at all.
Right,
So
right.
it's not good.
Yes.
But
Don't have any.
actually, because we have a larger family support system, children normally who are having any issues go in with, first of all, even within the family, you know, their uncles, aunts, grandparents, so the child finds some support within that. But otherwise, if it's a really big issue, or if he's like, you know, totally, or the mother's been jailed, normally families take over. You know, the mother's
Yes, of
sister
course.
will take over, or the father's sister-in-law will take over. So I think what we need to strengthen is that system. We have it, and it's the biggest blessing we can have.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, there's a great move towards children staying with their families, because that's a whole day. But they need support and they need monitoring, so that they're not mistreated there
course.
either. Although they may be mistreated in their own homes also, but that's what they need. So I feel that that's the kind of system we should strengthen,
Okay.
rather than have the foster
Okay.
home system, which takes them out. And you know, foster homes have a whole history of very,
Of
very
course.
ups and downs of. In fact, I remember seeing this whole group of foster home children in Hawaii in a conference, and they were heartbroken children.
Definitely,
Heartbroken
right,
children.
of course.
So I think if they can stay with family members, it's all.
It's better for them.
It's
Okay,
always
okay. What about you, Amna?
Shazna, I have been reading a lot about this, what you spoke about child rights, and then the women who give birth to the child who are even jailed or are prostitutes. 60-40% of the ratio, we see that 60% of the mothers who are prostitutes or even say jailed want their child to get a proper education.
Right.
Of course, because it's like every mother has a desire that their child gets very good education and have a very good life, because no mother would want to have his or her child face the same issue as she did. So we have in Pakistan, like this book, we don't have facilities. We do have a little good facilities. We have Pakistan Baitul Mal sweet homes. They have a very nice shelter home for the children. Many children, because I usually visit them. I usually visit them in a way that I had this school for child laborers and forced child laborers and those who don't have parents, orphans, obviously. So you know, it all depends on the mindset of the mother. Even if she is in any circumstances, if she wants her child to get education, she would.
Okay,
No matter what.
Okay, very rightly said. Now, this thing that I'm about to discuss, I don't even have very clear answer about this. I want you to guide me, because of course you have been working in this. So, you know, refugee children, and especially, you know, let's say children from Syria who've been orphaned, or even the Rohingya Muslims who've been orphaned or probably sent to other countries. And then there were these immigrant children in the US who were separated from their parents. Again, later on, some of them were reunited, but not all of them. The psychology that hits this, of course, but what happens to the future of them? I mean, they don't have anyone to look after them. And then again, their own country is sort of pushing them out. What happens with them?
Boy. Very few lucky ones get or end up with good families and in good places, but a lot of them go through a very, very difficult childhood. And it is very unfortunate, you know, if they are not able to get a supporting or supportive environment and people, they chances are that, you know, they'll end up becoming
They're one of the major
irresponsible,
groups that
vulnerable.
become child labor. They're
Yeah,
one of the
of
major
course,
groups
right.
that go in for child labor.
Yes, and you know, growing up in those difficult circumstances where nobody loved them and they had to face all those hardships, some of them feel that this is how life is and this is what we need to do when we grow up. So they become very abusive and get into things that are not very nice.
Right.
Others react in a totally opposite way, and they try and make sure that you know, the hardships that they had to face, others around them don't. So they become very caring human beings. But their lives definitely are very difficult.
And they, you know, most of them do happen to, unfortunately, you know, end up being criminals as well, or, you know,
they
commit
do.
street crimes or become druggies and so many other things. But I'm so sorry, you amazing ladies, we're short on time. There's so many things we still need to discuss. But we will be doing that again when we have them on the show. You know, so far, if you have anything to ask to us or write to us, please write on our Facebook page with the name of Well This Morning. On Twitter, Well This Morning without a G, Dailymotion, YouTube, also Well This Morning. And if you've missed this show, it's okay. You can watch the repeat at 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, take care. Good morning.